Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. And I'm here today to talk to you about my ranking of my favorite chase scenes in a slasher movie. So this will pertain to slashers only, no supernatural, horror movie, monster, nothing like that. A good chase scene in a slasher movie is one of the reasons why people love to go see slashers. A good chase scene can really help elevate a slasher movie. And there's an art to a chase scene. It's not just like running and jogging for like your life and everything. You really got to be able to sell it. And if you can't sell it, then you can risk making the movie kind of suck or your acting ability kind of suck. And there have been multiple chase scenes all throughout like slasher movies that in my opinion are like the top of the top. And there's some that lots of people talk about, and then there are a few that some people never really mention and deserve their due. And whenever every October, Halloween month, when I'm watching like my slasher movies, I'm watching my favorites and stuff, and there's just some chase scenes where I'm just like, man, why aren't these people recognized for how good of a chase scene they wrote, directed, and the actor or actress who ran in it, And it's quite a shame. And the good thing about a chase scene, it gets your blood pumping, it gets your fear factor raised up, your intensity and everything. You're on the edge of your seat. You want this person to survive. Sometimes they survive, sometimes they don't, you know what I'm saying? And that's the good thing about it's the adrenaline. And that's the great thing about a chase scene, it's the absolute horror of a scene to where you're just kind of you don't know what's gonna happen, and just because they're a big name star doesn't mean they're gonna make it out of there alive, you know what I'm saying? And there are a few on this list that's a good example of certain celebrities that did not make it out of. Now, when it comes to my favorites, I'm gonna base it on the intensity of the fear if the actor or actress is able to sell it. Also, they have to not be running like they're jogging and everything, not like a typical sprint or like a run. They got to give that horror movie, that cinematic run, where their arms are flaring up, they're constantly looking back and forth, they're looking scared. The music, the killer behind them, how intense is the killer trying to get at them and everything. Those are the things that I'm looking for. Some of these chase sequences will be long, some of them will be very short. I wish I could add Madeline Petch, Maya from The Strangers into this list, because in the part 2 or chapter 2, the entire 80-something minute movie is just an entire chase scene, but it's a very boring chase scene, so I will not be adding her to the list. Last on my list is Drew Decker, played by Carmen Electra in Scary Movie. I know it's not scary, but it's just hilarious and memorable. So this is a spoof on Scream. And also, I know what you did last summer. But the character is based off of Casey Becker. And it's just the most hilarious scene ever. So everybody who's ever seen Scream has seen, they know what happens to Drew Barrymore's character. She's home alone. She gets a call by Ghostface. She does the trivia. She gets one wrong, kills her boyfriend. She's terrified. She's running out through the house. she runs outside, gets stabbed, and then gets gutted and everything. And so this makes like the most lighthearted way of that terrifying scene in ways you can't even imagine. So, she's home, she's talking to the killer on the phone, the popcorn is going up really high. Um, she's talking about ex-boyfriend, she's banged like Prince and everything. That was like who was outside. And when she's running outside, like, the sprinklers comes on and she's getting chased and the killer's trying to grab her shirt, but her shirt comes off, then her skirt comes off, and she's just in her underwear. And she's a supermodel with like implants and everything. And the sprinklers come on and she's just doing a slow motion model run with the water. It's just awesome. Killer comes around, stabs her in the front. Her implant comes out. It's gross. It is just a hilarious, hilarious scene. Next is Ray from I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, 1998, played by Freddie Prinze Jr. So he's the only guy on this list. Most guys don't really get too many chase scenes, and if they do, they're very brief, and sometimes they're very lackluster. However, this one caught my eye for a couple of reasons. First of all, you have to set up the scene. Everything's just like cozy between him and his friend. They're heading out to like go visit Julie at this like island vacation. He's gonna propose to her. They're rocking out to music and everything in their truck, driving at night. And then all of a sudden he sees a dead body on the road next to like a car. And his friends are like, oh, we gotta help him. And Ray's like, nah, this seems too familiar for what happened last year to him. It's the whole thing with like Helen and the cop. So he goes out, he's worried, he's slowly walking up to like the corpse, and it's a fake body, it's a mannequin. And so like he turns around to let his friend know, he hollers at him, only for his friend to get hooked by the killer. And so Ray is already scared at this point, but what makes it worse is that the killer, Ben Willis, hops into the truck and takes off driving after Ray. And so instead of like, a foot on foot chase, it's now a car trying to run you over. That is extremely scary, especially in the middle of the night and you cannot see nothing but these giant lights on like shining on your back. And so in a car is a heck of a lot faster than a person. And what makes this scene terrifying is you wonder if Ray's gonna get run over and everything. Like you're extremely scared for him. Plus people like Ray and people like Freddie Prinze Jr. Now, in terms of him running, you do feel the fear in his eyes and everything, and he's not just running, he's doing cinematic running. His arms are flaring up a little way too much, in my opinion. Poor Freddie Prinze Jr. People always make fun of him when he does these movies. People made fun of him in the first movie because his voice was very light sounding, and then people made fun of him in the second movie because he's running like a girl. His arms are just flaring up way too much and everything, but he is selling it, but then he's able to jump out of the way at the very last second as the truck is about to hit, I think, the embankment or something like that. And you see like the sparks fly and he's tumbling down on the ground. And then Ben Willis drives off and then Ray is indisposed for a good amount of like the movie. Next is the ultimate final girl herself, Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell in Scream 1996. Sidney actually has two really good chase scenes, but she has actually three in the movie. The first good chase scene is like when she's home, and she's already scared because it's like, some strange things are happening around town. She's this sweet, innocent girl. Like somebody at her school or two people in her school ended up dead. And people are trying to say the killings are very reminiscent to how her mom died. So that has her worried. She's home alone. She's calling her friend. Her friend's not there yet. It's late. She's scared. And it's like, she gets a call from the killer. She thinks it's her friend Randy. And so, but we know for a fact it's not. And, he's like, just talking to her. Then he starts like taunting her, and it pisses her off to where, like, before he taunted her, he's all like, I'm outside your front porch, and she's outside, and we're like, oh crap, dude, like, is he on the front porch? She opens the door and he's not there. And so, like, she's walking around outside her porch, and unbeknownst to us, because we can't see it, he's running into the house and hiding in the closet. And that's when, like, he pisses her off to where she slams the door, locks it, and he busts out, like, the closet. And it's a horrifying scene because we had no idea he's in the house and everything. And he just, like, swipes at her, and she falls to the ground, kicking him, making him trip. It's a little bit of a tussle. He, like, headbutts her. He goes for like the kill but misses, and then she runs up like the stairs, and the scream of it all, like her screaming, and the music is so intensifying that it really sells this scene to where she's trying to like close the door and like, lock him out, but he's trying to get in, only for her to try to call the police through the computer and everything. And then, of course, there is the third act. One happened at the party. So after she clickety clapped Billy and everything, she's questioning him, like, still thinking, could he be the killer? Could he not? Then the killer just busts in and starts stabbing like Billy, and you automatically assume with Sydney he's dead. So she takes off running. She goes into like an attic room, which appears to be Stu's room and everything, and it's really demented. And so she's running through the house. Ghostface is chasing her. His house is like a maze. She's able to get into the room, close the door, and get out the window, but she falls several feet onto the boat, so she's already hurt and limping and stuff. But then she sees the most scariest thing of them all, other than the killer. She sees her dead friend Tatum hung from the garage door. So she takes off running, and she finds the news van. And so she's begging this dude to help her. He's all like, no, you're fine. I got like a camera in the house. But it has like a 30-second delay. And so at this point in time, the killer wasn't really chasing her because he was going after Randy. And so, like, but it's only till when he heard her scream for help, he went back outside. He slit the throat of, like, the camera dude. And so she crawls her way through the van, gets out, and takes off running. And I think this is before or after this happened after she came to the fence, and then she kicked the board down and everything. So she's running in the middle of the night, and then at some point it cuts to Gail and Dewey. And Dewey goes into the house. Gail finds, like, blood everywhere in her van. She's driving. She sees Kenny's dead body. The killer was out there at some point, and so she's driving, and she sees Sydney. She almost runs over Sydney. So then you're almost scared that Gail is going to run over her. And it adds that level of fear. Nev Campbell's doing a great, job of, like, selling this run. She's terrified. She's not trying to fight back. She's just taking off running. Her hands, her arms are flaring up in the air. She's not jogging. She's wondering where she's gonna, like, run next. And so she runs towards the house, and she sees Stewie. She's happy. He's a cop. He's her friend. He comes out staggering and everything. He falls to the ground. There's a knife in his back. The killer's behind him and rips it out. So she takes off running again and she finds the cop car. She thinks she's safe, but there are no keys. So, like, the killer has the keys and he's just taunting her, swooping around the car and everything as they unlocking the doors, and she has to like lock them really fast. And you're afraid he's gonna get in. Then when she hears the dispatch, she starts like talking to like, the dispatcher and everything. And you see the killer opening up the back trunk of the car, slowly crawling in. And so he grabs her, she runs out. And as she's running back to the house, you see a nice zoom up close of her as she's running back. And then she finally is able to grab the gun of like Dewey. But then something happens. First, one of her friends comes up screaming her name out and she's scared. She doesn't understand why the killer was going to kill Randy at first, but then stop. So she doesn't trust him. Then Stu comes around talking about how Randy killed like Tatum. So she doesn't know who to believe in everything. And she's pointing the gun at both guys are like freaking out. And so she slams the door on both of them. You hear banging, shouting, screaming and everything. And then she finally you see her boyfriend is alive and falling down the steps. So she helps him. He opens the door, takes the gun, lets Randy in, and shoots Randy. Next thing you know, Stu comes around the back of the door and he's all like, surprise, Sydney. And like he was the other killer and stuff. So not only was this chase scene very powerful and stuff, but like she finds out her friend and her boyfriend is the killer. The only reason why it's not ranked up higher is because of the simple fact it feels too choreographed and stuff. Next up is Tara from Scream 5 2022, played by Jenna Ortega. I never would have imagined that a slow motion chase sequence would be so terrifying. She didn't really have a chase scene that much in the beginning opening, but the hospital scene, now that got me because I'm all like, Jenna Ortega made history when Tara survived the opening kill. No other person has ever done that in a Scream movie. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, she survived this one. She's somewhat of a household name. Not a big name, but she's a household name because of her Disney Channel show at that time. So I'm all like, if she survived the first kill and now the killer's coming after her again, oh, she has to die. And in slow motion, oh, see, the killer broke her leg or ankle in the beginning of the movie, stabbed her over and over. So she has a cast on her leg. She's in a wheelchair. She's like really hurt and she has asthma on top of that. So the killer busts through the hospital door and slit Richie's forearm. Then Tara hit him with some medical stuff, and she just starts rolling on out of there. But the thing is, she's so weak, she's so tired, she's rolling very, very, very slowly. And it's just kind of like, oh no. Because, Ghostface loves to run after people. But Ghostface, for one of the few times he's ever done this, or she's ever done this, depending on which one it is. I know it's the female one in this movie, but there's been female ones in the past. Ghostface decided to just creep up and walk behind her very, very slowly. Cause, she figured, what's the point in running? It's too easy. She wants to savor this and everything. And so you just see Tara struggling to turn her wheels and everything and roll on out of there. But the killer's just pacing, just walking gingerly and everything. And then all of a sudden the phone rings and it's Sam. So Ghostface is talking to Sam, talking about like, hey, which one you want me to kill? Like, your sister or your boyfriend, pick one. And she can't decide. And then Ghostface is starting to get irritated. He's all like, you can't even tell me on the phone, just save your sister or save your boyfriend. And, tell me to save this one and I'll kill the other one and stuff like that. But what Sam was doing was distracting the killer. And so at this point, the killer just like tosses like Tara out the wheelchair and she's crawling very slowly on the floor. And I'm just like, cause see, before you knew that Sam was stalling, you really thought Tara was gonna get it. And it's all like, this is gonna be like the slowest, like anticipated kill ever. But it never happened because Dewey and Sam came in to save the day. But like, you seriously was on the edge of your seat and you thought she was gonna get it. Next is Casey Becker from Scream 1996, played by Drew Barrymore. This chase scene is very brief, but it's very terrifying. It was the first slasher I've ever seen, the first chase sequence I've ever seen, the beginning, opening of the movie, the first kill. And it was just like terrifying, man. Now, a lot of people assume that Drew Barrymore was going to be like the lead actress in the movie, but she wasn't because she was the first kill. Now, when I watched this, I really didn't know too much of like who she was. I saw her in E.T. I saw her in that female like cowgirl movie, that Western movie, but I never saw the movie. I just saw like the trailer, so I knew who she was. And so what makes this so terrifying is that she's a teenage girl. She's in the house alone, out in the middle of nowhere. And like she gets a phone call as she's about to watch a horror movie. She's making popcorn and the caller has like a really cool voice. She's intrigued. She's flirting a little bit. But then he starts to creep her out. She lied about having a boyfriend. And so, like, when he creeps her out and lets her know that, indicating that he can see her, it pisses her off and it freaks her out a little bit to where he keeps calling back over and over. And each time he's getting angrier to where he cusses her out. And so, like, he's letting her know that, yo, I'm around, but she kind of believes it, kind of doesn't. And then, like, she's so scared, like, she's talking about, like, she's just terrified at this point. Talking about how she's going to call the police. She hears the doorbell ring, thinking it's him. And so, like, he straight up lets her know for a fact he's there because he tells her the color of her hair. This freaks her out to where she runs around the house and like I think she turns like the lights out and stuff like that. And she's just like petrified at this point. And she's all like, you better leave me alone. My boyfriend's gonna be here. And he's all like, oh, but I thought you didn't have a boyfriend. So anyways, he reveals to her boyfriend tied up on the back porch. She's freaking out. He wants her to play a trivia game. And if she gets any question wrong, her boyfriend dies. She's crying. She's panting. She's getting all the answers right except for one trick question that throws her off. She watches her boyfriend get gutted. His guts completely fall out. Then as she's crying, he's letting her know, yo, the game ain't over if it's your turn now. And so she don't want to play. And like he asked her straight up, how many doors are to your house and stuff. She don't want to play. And he's letting her know, all right, you asked for it. And he like throws a chair or something through like her, I don't know if it was the window or the door window or something. So she freaks out. And this is when the chase starts. She gets up and she just takes off running in kind of like this staggered turkey jerky kind of motion as she's going into the kitchen. And as she's in the kitchen, her popcorn's on flame. She pulls out a knife, and then she sees the terrifying, image of the killer running past her vision far away in the distance. And the way the killer ran was so mesmerizing. Like, he just has his hand up in the air. He's running past her really fast. His like sleeve with the torn up sleeve area just like whipping in the wind. So she's trying to find like a way out. And so like she manages to like leave the house, and she's scared. She has the phone in her hand. She's crawling around, and then she sees like her parents' car down the road. And remember, they're out in the middle of like nowhere, like the woods and stuff. So when she's like, about to take off, about to go like, meet up with them, she turns around, look in the window, and boom, there's like the killer and stuff, right? And he busts through like the window trying to grab her, but she managed to fight him off by hitting him in the face with the phone. Then she's like running, but in a kind of tippy-toey, kind of like, girly fashion. And she sees her gutted boyfriend there. She stops and just looks at him. She wants to help him, but no, she can't. So then she starts taking off running again. She's barefooted and stuff. The killer like busts through the window. And this is the most horrifying part. You want her to get away. She's taking off running. Now, granted, she's not really running in that cinematic kind of way. It's kind of a little bit in the jogging kind of way. The killer's trying to gain his balance, so he's staggering. She's just trying to bolt on out of there and everything. And he's so close to her that you just want her to get away, but there's a possibility she's not, and she gets grabbed and stabbed in the chest. But when she falls down, all of a sudden the stab wound's in the shoulder. So she's trying to wiggle her way out of there, but then he stabs her in the neck. And by this time, she can't even scream. Blood is dripping down. Her voice sounds all scratchy. And she's calling out for her parents as they're going into the house. And the killer, at this time, she had already unmasked like the killer and stuff. And so she's getting stabbed over and over. The parents are like freaking out because the house is on fire. They try to call 911. They hear her like, her voice curdling and everything. It's a very, well, after that, they go outside and they see like, the mom lets out like a blood curdling scream, and it's her body hung, the girl, casing and stuff. It's a very short chase scene, but it is effective in every single way. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. It makes you anticipate she might not like make it out of here. You hope that she makes it out of here, and it's just like it really like it just like it gets you, you know what I'm saying? Like it gets you. Like it's just a couple of steps, and it's not even like a minute chasing or a 30-second chasing. I mean, it's brief. Like it's like 10, 15 seconds and everything. And it's one of the scariest chase scenes ever because she's not going to be able to outrun him, especially like barefooted. And there was like glass around at one point, and and he's running like, he's a tall man who can run really fast and stuff. Like, it's just one of the best chase scenes I've ever seen, but it's not the best in my opinion. Now, these next three, I kept juggling and everything. I could not decide who goes in the third spot, second, and the first because all three are very, very good. And like I was just debating like who can I put? Like I kept having every one of them at number one at one point, and I just couldn't decide. So I have finally made up my mind and everything. And I think these three are probably the best in a slasher movie that I've ever seen. So coming in at number three is Sasha, played by Tara Reid in Urban Legends 1998. Urban Legends deserves more praise than what it gets. It was a pretty good slasher movie. You know, I really enjoyed that movie. Yeah, it's a copycat of Scream, but who the heck cares? You know what I'm saying? And Tara Reid deserves some praise as well. She had a phenomenal chase sequence that still till this day is one of my favorites, and it gets me really scared for her and stuff. See, Sasha is barely in the movie. She only has maybe 3 scenes before her chase sequence. And every time we see her, she's the nicest, sweetest, bubbly type girl there is. She's also super horny. She has an irritating boyfriend who's like a jerk. But for, she's the good girl with the bad boy, and so she has a sex column on the radio. So she's a disc jockey for like the college and everything. And if it was in today's time, she would probably just have a podcast. Remember back in the day when podcasts were called blogs and stuff? Oh no, not blogs, but vogs with a V. But anyways, so she has this sex column thing and she's horrible at it, but she thinks she's so experienced, right? Now, she doesn't believe that there's a psycho killer on campus. Her friend Natalie does, but she just doesn't believe her and stuff. And so it's kind of like this little costume party thing. And she leaves the party to go back to her job. And while she's there, her person that she works with, he gets snatched up by the killer and she doesn't know it. And so everybody can hear her broadcast at the party. So what makes this so terrifying is like while at the party, Natalie's listening along with this one guy who's drunk and he can hear Sasha being chased and killed the entire time because she has a headset on her phone. Nobody else stopped to think, hey, could this be real? Should we do something? No, because they're partying, they're drunk, they're dancing, and the music is loud. Even the guy talking to Natalie thinks that this is fake, but Natalie knows it is real. So when Natalie hears like a noise or something, I think like the axe went through like the glass window, and it was a beautiful shot. Like the way that axe went through the window in the slow motion, tapped on with like the normal speed motion, beautiful and everything. So she's screaming, she's hollering. Natalie knows this is real, and Natalie takes off running towards the radio station. It's raining, it's pouring. We see Natalie running with her mouth open, kind of girly like. Natalie's running is not that great in terms of horror movie, slasher movie. She's just normal running, but it's effective because she's not being chased. And we see Sasha scared out her mind because she knows Natalie was telling the truth and there's a psycho killer with an axe. So she is chasing Sasha and everything. And Sasha is your old school slasher movie girl where she can't fight. She's not smart. She's like the beautiful blonde and she just takes off running and everything, screaming, hollering. Now, the way she's running is really effective because of one, how she looks and how she's dressed. She's dressed like Tiffany from the Chucky movies and stuff. White dress, black jacket, those really long, like combat kind of like Spice Girl type boots that are really big and everything, and a whole lot of cleavage. And like as she's taking off running and stuff, she can barely run because she has these gigantic boots on. Like you remember those Spice Girl boots, not as big as those, but kind of like combat kind of, you know. So and they have heels to them. So she's kind of trying to run, but she's doing that like high heel running kind of thing. Also on top of that, she has a short dress on, and the cleavage area is so low cut, she's bouncing out of like her dress. So she's trying her best to run, but not bounce completely out her dress. So she's running like a girl and everything, a scared girl, as the killer is just kind of gingerly walking behind her and everything. And she has to go down steps instead of up. But like she tries to go over to like the embankment, the part, kind of like the spiral staircase kind of thing. And so she's trying to go over it. And the killer is literally, you know, she's dangling, talking about like, leave me alone, and all this other stuff. And the killer with the axe is just like, you know, swipes at her and she falls down. And you get an upskirt moment as she hits the floor very hard with a thug. And she sells it by going like, Then she gets up and she's trying to run some more. Now remember, she got those big boots on. She got that dress on. But on top of that, now she hurt her ankle. So she's limping and everything. She can't make it to the exit. So she decides she's going to hide in one of the disc jockey's room and stuff. And while everybody can hear her, she's just like, please, somebody help me and everything. Now, the security guard can hear this as she's driving her best to get there as fast as possible. And you're really scared for Sasha because you know she can't fight. And she's just a sweet little thing and everything. And so Natalie comes in, and this is the biggest mistake Sasha made, is that when she sees Natalie, she's banging on the window to try to get Natalie's attention and screaming her name out. The killer now knows her location. Opens the door, she's terrified. She crouches down and she's all like, please, please don't kill me. I want to live and everything. Like it's heartbreaking because she's begging for her life as she's crying, only to get whacked a couple of times with that axe. It's one of the most unestimated chase scenes in the slasher movies ever. Like it deserves a heck of a lot more praise, and so does Tara Reid. And you know, I miss this version of Tara Reid. Like I miss when she had weight to her. It was the cutest little thing ever, the little pudgy weight. But then after a while, she did what most people in Hollywood does, and she slimmed completely down, looking like really skinny for the second American Pie movie. And I was like, oh man. Next is Sally from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974, one of the original final girls, played by Marilyn Burns. So at first I was gonna put this at number 1, but I decided to keep it at number 2 for a couple of reasons. She deserves to be on this list more than anybody else. Also, rest in peace. And one of the original final girls. Still don't know exactly who is the true original final girl, but like she had one of the best chase sequence I ever seen that was just horrifying and stuff. Now, it's a little bit of a cheat because she does at sometimes do kind of like this jogging at times. I'll get to that a little bit later. But I was really debating which one should I put this in. Now, she has 2 great chase sequences. The first one is it's the middle of the night. She's with her cousin. He's in a wheelchair. Their friends have been missing for the longest time. They go looking for them. And out comes Leatherface with a chainsaw, slices her cousin in half, and goes after her. And what makes her chase scene so memorable is she booked it. She ran for like, the hill. She ran for Dodge. She just took off running and she did not stop. Her and Leatherface literally ran like a marathon and they were never out of breath. And Leatherface is a big man. That man can run and run and run. What makes this so great is that Sally was just a normal, innocent little girl, you know what I'm saying? And like all of a sudden, here comes this crazy person out in the woods trying to kill her. That's terrifying. You turn around and you see like the boogeyman, you know what I'm saying? She saw her cousin get killed. She's out in the middle of the night in the woods. There is no light nowhere, and she booked it. And like she's having to like run and dodge like all these branches and bushes and tree limbs that are falling down, and it was a long chase sequence. And there was even a point where there's a bunch of like twigs and sticks and branches, like, that's an obstacle in front of her. And she's having to like wiggle her way through that without getting like poked in the eye and everything. Now, like I said before, it's a little bit of a cheat because there are times she does the jogging, motion running and stuff, but she had to be added to this list. You know what I'm saying? How could she not? And there are times it looks like they reuse the same footage of her running and Leatherface over and over and over in a loop, which I do not like. Now, when she's running, it looks like a little too choreographed. Like it looks like she's looking for safe spots to like run so she doesn't get her eye poked out by the branches. And that's fine because I don't want her to get her eye poked out either, because she was never an actress before this. I don't think none of them were. I don't think they were just people from Texas, you know what I'm saying? And so like, how the 70s were. You think they're gonna like pay for her to like go to the hospital? Nah. So I get why she ran the way she did, looking, trying to like scope everything out before she takes off running and stuff like that. Like I get that. But when she kept running, she goes to like the house. And that's the only time the first time she stops, because she's asking for help, but nobody's there. But she sees all the dead bodies and stuff, and like the little family cannibal looking body people and stuff. So then, she jumps out the freaking window of all things. Leatherface is chasing her down again, and she's back in the woods, and she's back to booking it and everything. And she has no idea where she's going because she's new to this part of the woods and stuff, because this isn't her city whatsoever. And then she's able to get to civilization, and she finds none other than the father of the killer. She thinks she's safe. He takes her to her place, but she is in more trouble than she thought. Now she's there with his family and a bunch of like cannibals. She's there at night. This lasts all the way into the morning. When she's able to free herself, she jumps out the window and it's daytime. Now she's being chased by both Leatherface and another family member. Now, in my Final Girl video, I made a mistake. I said Leatherface was chasing her and slashed her with a chainsaw. It wasn't him. It was his relative with like a knife and everything. One of those little shaving switchbladey type knife. What are they called? Like I forget what those type of blades are called. The ones that you shave with. So she's running and she got two crazy people after her. And the one dude is just slashing at her back over and over. But she's not going to let nothing stop her because she wants to live. Then she's waving down like this truck driver. He runs over the relative, and Leatherface is not far behind. He tries to help her, and he's able to distract like Leatherface by fighting her off. But she jumps out of his truck for some reason, and she takes off running again, and she gets in the back of a pickup. And she just leaves this truck driver by like himself, and Leatherface is still there. But then all of a sudden, the coolest thing happens and stuff. She's able to finally get away because the truck driver is just like, he got that lead foot. And Leatherface can't keep up. And so she's hollering, she's crying, she's screaming just a little bit. But then all of a sudden, all that crying and turns into laughter because she knows she made it. She outsmarted the killer. And she's just laughing in his face. She's happy. And we're happy for her, man. You know what I'm saying? Us fans and everything. Because she made it. She survived to the end. That's one of the most joyous things ever. And then, of course, we get the chainsaw dance. And last but not least, the very best slasher movie chase sequence of all time, in my opinion, is from I Know What You Did Last Summer, 1997, Helen Shivers, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar. Honest to God, I hope she was nominated. I hope she won some type of award. There needs to be a horror movie award show, and she should have won best chase sequence. Everything is so perfect about this chase sequence. The anticipation, the fear, the cinematography, the locations of the cinematography, the music score, the excitement, and the disappointment. I will still to this day be pissed that she died. I wanted her to live so freaking badly because she was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but more importantly, she was on All My Children. See, I've always been a huge Sarah Michelle Gellar fan. It started with All My Children, where she played, I think, Bianca, or Kendall. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Kendall. But then she left that for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And at that time, I did not have cable. So I was unable to see Buffy, but I saw one episode. So I was always just a fan of hers because of that. And then I finally got to see Buffy, and I was even more a fan. So I was rooting for her the entire time in this movie and in Scream 2. And so, her chase sequence is so interesting and unique. There's so many factors to it. So after she saw her boyfriend get hooked and killed by Ben Willis and everything, she tells the cop he doesn't believe her because there's no body in the little balcony area. So he takes her home. Now, we don't know much about her father other than he's always watching TV and doesn't pay attention to her. Her sister hates her guts. And so going back home is not the best thing. Plus, Ben Willis already snuck into her home and chopped off her hair. So as she's in the back of the cop car, she's trying her best to convince the cop that there is a man with the hook that they ran over. And now he ran over to his friend or something like that, because they didn't know who he was at the time. So they thought they ran over his friend. He wants revenge, and he's killing them one by one, or going after them and stuff. And so the cop doesn't want to believe it. She gets really pissy and rude and sassy at the cop. He sees somebody having car trouble. He's trying to help this guy, and she realizes he's wearing a slicker. So she knows for a fact that's the killer. She tries her best to warn the cop with a curdling scream, but it was too late. The man got hooked. Then here comes Ben Willis walking towards her. She's in a cop car. She busts open the glass window to the side door and everything with her feet, and she crawls on out of there and hits the ground. When she hits the ground, it kind of causes a little bit of a limp, but not much. Because her ankle is a little hurting, but not that much, you know what I'm saying? And so she just takes off running. And so Ben Willis is right behind her. Now, Ben Willis is an interesting killer. He walks towards his victim as his victims are running, but yet he's still able to catch up with them. And we see a beautiful next scene of this big kind of white garage door to a building, or a white building like a wall, you know what I'm saying? Making like a silhouette. And we see her come around the corner and all we do is see her shadow. It's a beautiful lit scene. And then we see Ben Willis coming around that corner, just walking with his hook. She's running. She's looking behind herself. Now her running is very important. She's wearing an evening gown. She's also, and it's very tight on her, so she can barely move her legs. Not only that, but she's wearing high heels. So her running is not as fast as it should be. And she's doing that, running like you're in high heels and everything like women do and stuff. And so she can barely get away. And she sees her dad's shop and Elsa is there. So she's happy. She thinks, thank God I'm about to be saved and everything. So she's running as fast as she can, constantly looking back. And then she's banging on the door because Elsa's taking her sweet time just a walking. When she finally lets her in, she's letting her know, hollering like, somebody's out to kill me, blah, 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 blah. Her sister does not believe it. She has to cuss her sister out, telling her to lock the back door and everything. And while she calls 911. Now, at this time, we don't see Ben Willis. And at this time, Elsa is starting to really feel that, hey, my sister's cussing me and everything. This must be serious. So as she goes back to lock the back door, what's her name's using the phone. And then Elsa got. She got hooked. And you can see Ben Willis just dragging her body as it's being hooked. And Helen knows something weird is going on. She's calling out for her sister, and her sister's not responding. She's getting very scared now. The lights start to go out. She goes to look for her sister, and she can't find her. And all she can find is a bunch of mannequins with plastic wrap over them. And you get this anticipation that, like, oh no, one of them must be the killer. And it is. And he just lunges at her, knocks her off her feet. She runs. She sees her dead sister in the bathroom. She's running like, I think, what is it? She climbs on top of like a gurney or something like that. And she's pulling herself as fast as she can. And as the killer is trying to swipe at her. Granted, she ain't got no muscles, no strength. And she has to pull this entire gurney thing, like a dumbwaiter type thing, all by herself. And so when she makes it up to the top, she opens the window and here comes the killer, and the dude can walk really fast trying to get at her, and she just leaps out the window and hits the ground as hard as could be. Now her ankle is hurting. Now she's out of her high heels and everything. And so when she looks up, she can't find him. So she's in the back of an alley. And she's limping at this point. She's trying her best to run, but she really can't. And she's happy and she's excited because she sees fireworks. She hears music. She sees the band at the parade walking on by. All she has to do is catch their attention. So at this point in time, she thinks she's safe. You hear kind of like this heroic music and you're like, yes, she made it and everything. She's walking, she's limping, she's trying to run. And then all of a sudden, here comes the killer. Just leaps out of hiding behind these tires stacked on top of one another. Like, how the heck did he get there so fast? And he gets her. He's just like, she's trying her best to fight. The lights are like flashing and everything. The band cannot see or hear her because they're too focused and everything, going in a straight line. And she just gets hacked over and over and over with the hook. And it's like, no, because you want her to live so freaking bad. But she got hooked. She got killed. She got, and she is gone. And what makes this one of the best chase sequences ever is the chase itself. But then the moment you think she's gonna be safe, and you're like, whew, I can breathe again. Only you can't, because then she got and everything. Oh, so disappointing. So yeah, I think out of all like the slasher movies that I've seen a good couple, a lot more, but a lot of those other ones didn't really have no good chase sequence. I really feel like this group that I like presented is truly, in my opinion, the best of like the best. Like, there's just something about them that always makes you remember them years later, and you never really forget because they're so memorable and everything. That wasn't that spooky. All right, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.